Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Scope. And now, here are your hosts, Jared, Adam, and Shane.
Hey everybody, episode 235. 235 of The Scope, Jared. 250. Straight ahead of us down the horizon. 200 way behind us.
Thanks for the numbers. I don't know what you're getting at.
What I'm trying to say is no Adam today.
Sorry, I am still on tour.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
We've got to have his robotic replacement. Adam is gone. ADAMatic 3.0 in the hizzy fo shizzy.
I don't know about 3.0, but maybe 2.1.3.
Gonna write that down. Which is it? 2.1.3. John Norton, there you go.
Bit of a maintenance release.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting because, again, we're going to have a streamlined show. Adam's not here to slow us down. So Jared and I are going to take the reins, take control, and maybe put out the best Scope episode we've ever done.
Wow.
Is that pressure?
Might be.
Well, guess what? You're up for it.
Oh, well,
I can tell.
I'll give it a try.
I can tell.
I'm trying to talk and type at the same time.
What do you...
I roll with the gigahertz.
Really?
Yeah.
So, ADAMatic, what were you doing in your time off? You've been gone for years. You must have been up to something. Please don't delay in telling us. Just get to it, would you, ADAMatic?
Trying to.
Adam, the thing is, your 2.1.3, it sounds like it's sort of buggy.
A little bit. It's a little behind the times.
I mean, it's not
Straight up trolling the hose.
Oh, wow.
State of trailing the houses.
The hose.
Oh, the hose.
Yeah. Don't you speak ADAMatic?
I don't think that I do. Is there any girl you have your eye on, ADAMatic?
Oh, no. The pressure.
I got to text you. Because as soon as I said it, I thought, I know who he's into.
Oh?
ADAMatic is predictable.
Is he?
Yeah.
I don't know
Let's
about
see.
that. Let's see what...
He's there
This sweet supercomputer at IBM gave me those digits.
I would have thought that he was into Vicky from Small Wonder.
Oh, yeah.
See, there we go. All right. So, yeah.
I don't have a follow-up for that.
ADAMatic is here. Adam is not. And this time around, Jared, a big show. More nerdy stuff, more pop culture conversation. We're bringing back the Nerd Roundtable. It's our fallback topic, but boy, nobody in the country does it better than us.
Boing.
Did he say boing or boring?
I said boing.
Either way. So, Jared, why don't we do this?
Yeah.
We'll let ADAMatic recharge his batteries.
Oh.
Is he battery powered or solar, or is he plugged into...
He's got a quantum nuclear reactor.
Of course he does.
Of course.
But yet he can't answer a question quickly, but he's got the most sophisticated of powering sources there are,
Yeah.
but he's slow to the draw. What do you want?
It's true. It happens.
Does he have robotic facial hair? That's what I want to know.
Yes.
Of course he
Yes. Titanium whiskers that need to be shaved with adamantium claws.
does. Perfect.
I don't know.
So let's take a quick
What do
break.
you want from me?
Let's take a quick break, get Jared off the hot seat. We'll be back with more Scope, more Nerd Roundtable, more episode 235 right after this.
We got the fump. Give up the fump.
Ladies and gentlemen, comedy fans of all ages, FumpFest is back. Featuring performances by 2D6, Carrie Dalby, Tim Cavanaugh, TiVo Spice, Dynamite, The Gothsicles, The Library Bards, Mega Thruster, Rob Paravonian, Sea Monkey, Zach Shornick and the Pathetic Men, Tom Smith, and Worm Quartet. And this year's guest of honor, Paul and Storm.
George R.R. Martin, please write and write faster. Please give us boiled leather and sigils and steel.
FumpFest is taking place August 26th through 28th at the Elk Grove Holiday Inn in Chicago, Illinois. Tickets for the weekend are just $50. Join us for live concerts, panels, even more dumb parody ideas, demented karaoke, and the death of Sea Monkey.
Please no flash photography.
Visit FumpFest.com to register for the event and reserve your hotel now. That's FumpFest.com.
Oh, wow. Welcome back to The Scope, episode 235, Nerd Roundtable edition.
Yeah.
It's like Crossfire, Jared. You
It
and
is.
me. You being the conservative voice, me being the liberal voice.
Why am I the conservative voice?
I don't know. You always struck me as more of like a, I was gonna say Rush Limbaugh type. I mean, that's really fits your character.
Wow. You can see the gold microphone in front of me. I'm very much a Rush Limbaugh type. Not.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I do have that OxyContin addiction, though.
Can you do that? Can you say, ladies and gentlemen?
Ladies and gentlemen. No, I can't do a Rush.
You can't do it. Well,
No,
guess what?
I don't have the hate in me like he does.
Wow. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
We're not talking liberal. We're not
No.
talking conservative.
No.
We are talking pop culture. We are talking geeky stuff. We are talking movies. We're talking things that appeal to us and will appeal to you, our Scope listeners.
Like lawn care and how to change your oil. 'Cause
And
we're grown men.
We are. That's all we ever do. No,
Yeah,
I think
right.
we're going to skew a little bit younger on this one,
Okay.
Jared. So let's get ready.
Can we talk Angular versus React?
Of course. We're going to talk. We're going to talk spaces versus tabs, Jared.
Nice. Spaces all the way.
But first, let's lock it in with Ghostbusters talk, Jared.
Whoa. Stop. Why? I'm on the wrong page.
Can you give me a lock-in sound?
No. I cannot. Lock in
Let's
sound.
try it again. Just give me a sound. Let's lock it in with Ghostbusters talk.
There we go.
There we go.
You happy now?
Okay, Jared, this question goes out to you.
Yeah.
Can you please explain to me, an ignorant fool, why the new Ghostbusters is a thing? But what I mean by that is, why are people so angry and polarized about this film?
Ladies are not funny.
ADAMatic.
It's such a racist,
Come on.
sexist jerk. And the follow-up question is, does the vitriol aimed towards this film expose a bigger issue in fandom right now? That seems to be the talk of the town for people that are in the know. So start with Ghostbusters and then expand to bigger things. You're
boy.
on.
Wow.
Go.
Well, okay. So at a base level, you've got a problem because this is Hollywood remaking a beloved film from the past. People don't seem to get as upset when they remake a film that was terrible, but I think most people who have seen it at least regard the original Ghostbusters as a classic.
Sure.
A comedy gold standard for the mid 80s. I mean, it had Bill Murray, it had Dan Aykroyd, it had
Harold Ramis.
It had Ernie Hudson. Comedy genius, but also a good supporting player.
Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney
Jared.
Weaver, Rick Moranis.
Annie Potts as the secretary.
So people are, for the most part, love that film. And so for the Hollywood to just say, you know what, we're gonna remake that, and we're just gonna make another version of it, just seems like a big cash in. However, the people involved are good people.
Mhm.
You've got Paul Feig or Feig.
Paul
I don't know.
Feig, I believe. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yep.
He's the director. You've got a great cast. This is the decision that they made was to go with an all-female Ghostbusters cast.
To sort of differentiate it from the original, in a way. You know?
Which was all male, and plus females are underrepresented
Sure.
in film. So
And they're
why
all
not?
terrifically funny women,
Right.
every single one
So
of
you've
them.
got Melissa McCarthy.
Correct.
You've got
Leslie
Leslie Jones.
Jones.
You've got Kate McKinnon.
My hero, Kate McKinnon.
And you've got
my other hero,
who's your
Kristen
hero?
Wiig.
There you go. I wanted to see if you knew.
Of course I know.
All right.
You've got Thor.
You've got you got Hemsworth in there as this time he's the secretary.
Yeah.
So on the surface, I think it's a good thing to do. I mean, why not have female Ghostbusters? I don't have any problem with that. Great cast, very, very funny people. So why are people angry, Shane?
Well, I mean, I don't know if some of this stuff ties into some of the BS that we had with Gamergate, which was sort of this blindly hating on women. Maybe they were angry because they saw the first trailer and it did not strike them the way they
They were
thought it
angry
would.
before that. They were angry when the film was announced. The little man boys out there who can't
Yeah.
take any. There's this problem with a certain group of men who are upset at what they view as anything that is rightfully theirs being taken from them. And so apparently, since some view Ghostbusters were men and therefore they should always be men, and for them to make them women is just bad. I have a hard time explaining it because it's a mindset
Yeah.
that I don't understand.
But
it's really hard for me to get into the psychology of it.
from a historical perspective, Jared.
Yes.
I mean, this movie is over 30 years old.
Yes.
What is it? You know,
Well, everyone knows we didn't have women back then. I mean, they were probably what, 10% of the population, right?
I just don't.
I'm joking.
I don't understand why it matters what is remade ever, because things change and things advance.
Yep.
And we always say it. I mean, it's the typical line: remaking something does not destroy the things of your past.
Right. Ghostbusters still exists.
It still exists.
You can still watch it. In fact, it's going to be in theaters this month. The original. Go see it.
Go see it.
Prove that it exists still.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any interest in seeing the new one, then don't.
Then don't
That's
see it.
fine. But to have this childish man baby reaction to it. I mean, we had it when we went and saw X-Men and they played a Ghostbusters trailer before the movie. We had people behind us.
Yeah. Like, the real question is, why should this movie even exist? Or they said
why
something like
I can't believe people laugh at this stuff. And It's like, but there were good jokes in there. I just
the women in this film, and this is a controversial statement right now. This could be an absurd statement, but they are as funny, probably, or held in as high of esteem as the men were of Ghostbusters in 1984. Maybe, I mean, Bill Murray had not reached mythic status at that point.
Boo, boo, boo.
Is he trying to scare me right there?
I think he's booing you, but
I mean,
not doing a good job of it.
Is that a fair statement, Jared?
Yeah, absolutely. They are probably some of the funniest people.
Yeah,
going
maybe
right
you're
now.
missing like an Amy Poehler, that sort of thing. But in terms of Amy Schumer, but in terms of really funny people,
Yeah.
women sort of rule the roost right now, so to speak. And you're not going to find box office draws or possible box office draws as big as these four women.
And guess what? If you are really dead set against funny women, there's plenty of male funny movies coming out too. So
Go see Counterintelligence or whatever.
yeah,
That looks like a hoot.
yeah, you just need a big Johnson and a little heart.
I have a hard time ripping on the film because I think Ike Barinholtz wrote that film, but
Right, but
still,
the marketing is atrocious.
I mean, and if your issue is with the concept of remaking, guess what? I get it. I totally understand that.
Why are you pitching your tent here on this one? Because there's so many other cases to be made against films that shouldn't be remade.
Remakes of films, remakes of anything have been done for years. Now, has it accelerated now compared to other years? Maybe. I honestly don't know for sure, but
it's been a thing in Hollywood all the time. Here's how you fight against remake culture. You don't see it.
Yeah.
Don't spend your money on it. Vote with your dollars. This is why remakes happen, is because they've been born out to be financially successful and easier to market. And understand, Hollywood doesn't make movies just for the creative reasons. They make them because they make money.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a business. So if you are dead set against remake culture, it's very simple. Don't see it, and somehow convince your friends not to see it.
And that also ties.
But good luck with that.
And that ties into sequel culture too, Jared.
Sure,
it's the same thing. It's another side of the same cube. I mean, it's essentially retelling the same story in a slightly different way and making more money on it. Just like a remake is, hey, we capitalize on the same story. But guess what? Shakespeare's stuff's been redone for years. And everything gets remade. There's only so many concepts of human storytelling that are unique and different, and there just really aren't that many. But the thing is, as long as you're entertained, who gives a crap?
Let's also not lose sight that this is a vocal minority that is upset with this. This isn't the population as a whole. Most people don't care. Most people don't speak out on Twitter or Facebook or wherever else railing against anything in particular. Most people are just happy to take whatever's given to them and go, oh, maybe I'll see that, maybe I won't. They're not that invested in it. They're not that excited about it. You have a very vocal minority of privileged people speaking out repeatedly in these situations. And, as is often the case, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. It gets blown out of proportion. So keep your understanding of it in check.
So tell me, does that then outline the bigger issue of fandom right now? The easy hatred, the my opinion is right, your opinion is wrong type of attitude that just becomes louder and louder and louder.
Yeah.
And does that sort of symbolize a issue with the country as a whole? Because we've talked about it before.
So there's been a couple of articles published in the last week or two about this topic. And I am sort of not necessarily a believer that things are necessarily worse than they've ever been, because nerds have always been very,
Yep.
very beholden to their own opinions on topics. The difference now is that you have social media and you have direct access to the people involved. And so, for whatever reason, some people feel like it's okay to lash out at these people through Twitter or whatever other means they have of reaching these people. And they say some of the worst reprehensible things. However, it's been often documented that if the person attacked confronts these people, they'll say, oh, well, I didn't think you'd actually read it. I didn't think you'd actually care. I just was venting. I just needed to throw it out there. I didn't actually mean it. So, I don't know. It's like sometimes you have to take it at face value when there's like a legitimate threat involved. And sometimes you can't take it at face value because it's somebody just throwing stuff out there because they didn't think before they act. And now you can do that. Now you don't have, before you were just cursing at the TV screen, nobody could hear you.
Yeah.
Now you can pick up your device and type it in and send it.
And you've got
and
an
never
opinion.
think about it again.
Yeah. Until
Without realizing that there's probably a human being on the other end who's getting that. So we're sort of in this empathy gap with social media where our thoughts about how we're interacting with people electronically haven't really caught up with how we should be feeling about and interacting with people. That's kind of my opinion.
So talk about this.
Maybe we'll never close that gap.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll always have that gap.
Don't you think that empathy gap is something that you can project to more than just that? And maybe the issue is that because you have that gap and you exist in a world where you feel like, your off the cuff opinions of stuff, they, instead of that being an anomaly, instead of that being a thing that's of, instant rage that you reject and you regret later, but that's actually what you start to believe to be true.
Sure.
That is who I am, and I am entitled to be this way. I'm entitled to be angry, and my snap opinion and my angry opinion counts more than yours, and I don't need to listen to other people because I don't really understand empathy anymore.
It's hard to make a black or white statement about that kind of stuff because there are legitimate cases where marginalized people have been given a voice through these tools, and maybe their opinion is more important. Maybe they do need to be listened to, and maybe they are justified in thinking that my opinion is right. You're not seeing it from my perspective. I live in this every day, and obviously I'm making this more political than you probably intended, but my point is that it's not.
Ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of rush right there. Come on.
My point is that it's a spectrum, and
it's not black and white.
It
It's
isn't.
not binary.
Everything is gray. That's the thing. Is like, yes, on one hand, there's groups of people who think their opinion is more valid than other people's, and it really isn't. It's just their opinion. And then there's other times there's groups of people who do have a valid opinion that isn't being listened to, and of course they're more angry and more vocal about it now that they have tools to do so. And there's also this issue of we have this tendency now to sort of file ourselves away into these smaller, ever smaller communities that support our worldview. And you get a lot of instant feedback from these people who are very supportive, and it feels good when you do something and people go, "Yeah, good job, that's great. You're fighting the good fight." You could be doing terrible things, but you're always going to find a community that's going to support that
your
type
bullshit,
of behavior,
whatever you are.
And our technology has enabled us to find these communities now, and sometimes we never leave those communities, and we never see what another perspective is, and. Excuse me, and that's actually widening the empathy gap. So I don't know. I mean,
it's scary, isn't it?
I think
It's worrisome to me.
I'm sort of, to bring it back to your question of, is there a problem with fandom? And there definitely is a problem with fandom. I'm just not sure that it's a new problem or if it's just a problem that's existed forever.
An amplified old
that's
problem.
being amplified through our modern communication tools. So
that's a heady, deep thought, Jared.
Yeah.
Good job. So let's go on to something that's not about angry fandom, but it is about shifting fandom ideas.
You guys are real nerds.
Thank you. Thank you, ADAMatic. So, Jared, recently Hasbro announced a new movie, a new movie universe featuring G.I. Joe,
yes,
and some of their other properties lesser known, like Mask, The Visionaries, Micronauts, and Rom the Space Knight. And for the record, this movie universe, there are rumors that Rom the Space Knight might actually cross over into the Transformers movie universe.
Why not?
Or they might all cross over. Who knows? Following suit, comic book company IDC announced their new shared comic universe featuring a bunch of Marvel or a bunch of Kenner properties or Hasbro properties, not Kenner, featuring G.I. Joe. The Transformers are in this group. Rom, Mask, and Action Man, with possibly more properties on the way, like Visionaries.
Interesting.
So let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Is this the way of the world right now in terms of this concept of, do you have to have giant shared playgrounds to actually make licensed properties work? Or is this just an overcorrection responding to the success of the Marvel shared cinematic universe? And I don't even want to say that Star Wars has a cinematic universe, because Star Wars is Star Wars.
Star Wars is,
Marvel's has sort of set this template for bringing in all these things. But the difference is that the shared Marvel universe is still dealing with characters that are within it. What Hasbro is doing is taking separate properties and bringing them together that don't exist, and really probably, I mean, even when you were a kid,
they existed in your toy box.
Yeah, but that's it. So what is it, Jared? Is this a mistake? Is this something that's fascinating? Is this something that we just sort of have to see play out? Because I don't know. I sort of have some opinions on this.
Yeah. So it's not surprising, because whereas you may have a licensed property that you turn into a film franchise and you release a film every year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. If you do a big shared universe like a Marvel, now you're releasing 2 to 3 films a year, and they all feed into each other, and everyone feels like they have to see them all. And so you just have this perpetual money generation machine. So I can understand the allure of it. Now, the trick is, as we're seeing with DC, as ever, are the films good? I mean, that's the end all be all. They have to be good. They don't have to necessarily be the best films ever, but every film has to stand on its own in some sense and be entertaining. And that's the real challenge in that. So I don't know how you combine, and they have to make logical sense too. I mean, Marvel is easy to do because they've already have this established world of characters in comic books that they're now just bringing to films and changing things to be as they need to be in films. But I don't know how. I think you can make Transformers and G.I. Joe maybe work okay.
So let me spell this out for you.
Go ahead.
This is the main premise of all of these different properties.
Yeah.
So G.I. Joe, as people know, they are like an army group of specialized soldiers that have sci-fi elements. Very, very Earth-based, for the most part, fairly realistic. I mean, it's a military type of situation.
Yeah.
Mask, which is one of my favorite cartoons as a kid. It's Mobile Armored Strike Command. And it is essentially a bunch of, I don't even want to say spies, but it's a group of people that fight another terrorist organization, and they have vehicles that transform into other vehicles.
Okay.
And they also wear masks that have powers that allow them it augments their crime fighting ability.
Right.
Very fantasy based. You've got Visionaries, which was a Marvel /Kenner /Hasbro toy, which is about space knights in an alternate planet that's sort of like Earth, where they can channel animal spirits through their holograms on their armor suits and then their vehicles. And then you've got Micronauts, which are a bunch of shrinking, spacey kind of guys that fight bad guys, that there's aliens in there. They were a somewhat successful toy line in the late 70s. Got destroyed by Star Wars. They had a comic book series that didn't really tie into the toy line at all, so I'm assuming that this will be more of a toy line base. And then you've got Rom the Space Knight, which is like this big silver space knight that flies through the universe that doesn't really even have much of any sort of story. He had one action figure that was always tied up in weird rights at a Marvel comic book series, which I don't think that Hasbro has any rights to, that was tied into the Marvel Universe. He was actually a Marvel Universe character while he was there. How in the hell do you bring all that stuff together? How do you do it?
It's a lot of mythologies. It's a lot of different and possibly conflicting rule sets. It's a big challenge, and it makes me wonder, is it even worth the challenge?
Yeah.
Because,
I mean,
yes, Transformers films are I mean, they're not part of this universe, but they could, I guess, potentially be. They're successful. G.I. Joe, not as successful.
Yeah.
Everything else unproven on the film stage.
G.I. Joe not success. I mean, G.I. Joe is a property which is really struggling.
Yeah.
And this sort of ties into a bigger issue, Jared, is there's a lot of purists, people my age in their 30s and 40s that grew up on Transformers and G.I. Joe when they existed.
And now they have Twitter and they just yell at people all day long.
But the problem is that while Transformers has done a good job of staying sort of relevant, G.I. Joe has struggled.
Yeah.
It had 2 movies that neither of them were super successful. They've had toy lines that don't sell that well. And G.I. Joe of the modern age now is already a spin-off of the original 12-inch G.I. Joe dolls.
Which is very much grounded in more traditional military stuff.
Like, I mean, it was spun out of essentially like the Vietnam War. I mean, that's sort of where its origins were. So you've got G.I. Joe, which either you do something like this, or it just doesn't exist because it's proven that it can't exist on its own. And I think that people of my age are sort of sad, and they feel like, it's the passing of a torch. You sort of have to, like, shit or get off the pot, as the case may be. I mean, it's G.I. Joe for a next generation. Just like Star Wars is sort of being positioned as something that the old-time fans are going to love, but really they're thinking about the future.
In the end, the universe has to make sense.
Yeah.
And I'm having a hard time conceiving of a shared cinematic universe that makes sense with G.I. Joe, Mask, Visionaries, ROM Space Knight,
And
Micronauts,
Micronauts,
all
and maybe dabbling with the Transformers.
all existing in the same universe with features and abilities that make sense. I mean, I don't know how you do it.
Out of all of them, the only 2 that feel like they could make sense, and I think they're going to play up this angle in the comic books, would be Transformers and Mask.
Sure.
Because Mask have transforming vehicles. They have masks that have powers that you might be able to pull from Cybertronian. I've got this. This is deep nerdy stuff, but I mean, you could tie it in. Even G.I. Joe doesn't feel that connected because they have military in the Transformers movies. The military is always going to be overshadowed by giant robots. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, the giant robots can step on you.
When you would think eventually the military would have giant robots.
Yeah. So maybe the military, you get transforming vehicles in G.I. Joe, but then it's
not G.I. Joe.
Then it's Mask. Or it's just people flying around in
it's too
Transformers.
disparate. Yeah.
It doesn't work together.
Whereas superhero universes make sense because the framework is already there.
They're all superheroes like, living in a city.
Yeah.
I mean, the weird stuff starts to be when you get superheroes that don't exist on this planet, like i.e. Guardians of the Galaxy. But they've proven that can exist in its own space.
Right.
The challenge is how do we bring that together? Or Thor being alternate dimension or whatever.
But these are all things that these are connections they've already forged and solved in the comics.
There's 60 years of history that defines that.
Yeah.
So I think it remains to be seen. In my opinion, though, Jared, I think that it's headed for disaster.
I think it's more intriguing.
I really do.
I think it's more intriguing in comic book form than it is in films. I think the challenge is really difficult.
Yeah, if this works in a film format, they should give the writers of this an Oscar because the challenge on this is monumental.
It also feels
momentous. It's the biggest you've probably ever deal as a script writer.
Yeah. It also feels like the sort of challenge that is going to require a lot of money. And I don't know that these type of films are going to make that kind of money to justify it. So
if Transformers isn't in this group, none of these things are proven as a film property.
It just seems difficult to pull off at the scale that they probably would need to pull it off at.
So to be determined.
Yes.
Get to life, losers.
Thank you, ADAMatic. One last quick question. We talked about this the last show. A lot of news about reshoots for the Star Wars film, a Star Wars anthology film.
Yeah.
Rogue One. Mm-hmm. Rumor came out that there's going to be a month of reshoots or added shots. I
heard it was 8 weeks now.
Was it 8 weeks?
Yeah.
2 months? You've got some reports saying the film is not working, according to Disney execs. But we all know that reshoots happen, Jared.
Right.
So where is the truth in all of this? That's the question.
I don't know that we can know the truth without them coming out and making an official statement.
Which they never will. Would never come and say, boy, this film is tanking.
So the common wisdom has sort of pivoted a little bit from the initial impression that the film was in trouble and that it wasn't good to more of the tone is different than we were hoping for. We want a tone that is more in line with the other Star Wars films and specifically The Force Awakens, which I understand wanting to do that. I understand that that's sort of where you want to be in order to maximize your potential box office.
Correct.
But I think it's a little bit of a shame because what I read today is that the tone of the film that Gareth Edwards delivered was more in line with a war film, which seems appropriate.
Everybody
to the
thought
subject
that's
matter.
what it was going to be, right? I mean, that's not a surprise.
And now it sounds like they want it to be more of what's known as a 4-quadrant film, which I don't know if you know what that is. It's a film that appeals to what they call the 4 quadrants: men, women, under 25, over 25. Basically everyone. They want a film like the Star Wars films that appeals to everyone and feels like it's tonally in line with the other films.
Okay.
Which, again, I completely understand the want for that, but I think I'm disappointed because it misses an opportunity for these anthology films to sort of stand apart a little bit.
Yes.
I don't necessarily want them to feel like they're part of the core trilogy of films or the core story of films. I want them to feel like they're kind of a fresh voice and a fresh take on the Star Wars universe. And for them,
it has to be Star Wars.
Yeah.
But how you frame it needs to be unique.
Right. And for them to just basically what it feels like is to chase dollars over doing something interesting and new is disappointing, because I was really looking forward to each of these films having sort of more of an individual stamp on them based on the creators involved.
Yeah.
But
I mean, this film is the only film that stars someone and I'm talking about the anthology films, that is going to have a leading character that is not a character we know already.
Exactly.
So why do we have to make it feel like everything else when you've already sort of set that expectation for some of these other films? I don't want that. I'm with you. I mean, we don't have to have, rebels being chopped up with lightsabers, and like severed body parts all over the place, even though you do see some of that in Star Wars. But there needs to be an urgency there. This film needs to feel like, the fate of the universe depends on getting these plans to the rebellion. And you have to do it without Jedis. You have to do it like, it almost has to be a heist chase film where Vader and his minions are hot on the tail of this rogue group of specialists. And it has to be dark. It has to be scary. It has to be unnerving. And there has to be payoff at the end, because we know what the payoff is.
We know what the payoff is. It's rumored to end 10 minutes before A New Hope begins. So yeah, I mean, but again, it's a business. And so I understand why Disney is going to say, let's lighten the tone a little bit. Let's try to bring a little bit of humor into it. I get it. And I just think it's an lost opportunity, because now it sets the trend for all of the anthology films. This is the first one. And I really hoped that this would set the tone for like, hey, these films can all be unique and interesting, but still be Star Wars. And now it sounds like they're all going to have to fit into this particular blueprint of what a Star Wars film is. And guess what? Marvel's guilty of the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Marvel, in the article I read, was cited as a source where it's no longer possible for a Marvel film to have a completely unique creator voice, because they've all got to be connected to the same universe in some sense. So that's part of the reason that what's his name left Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Edgar Wright left Ant-Man, is because he wasn't going to be allowed to do a purely Edgar Wright film with Ant-Man. So I know it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I would,
maybe at some point, Jared, Marvel gets to a point where, you have some diminishing returns on some of their films, and they feel like, okay, we need to try to experiment a little bit to,
how do we inject a little life
freshness
into
it. But right now, Ant-Man without Edgar Wright was a great movie.
Sure.
It's had a weak villain, but overall, it was an entertaining film.
I think it would have been a weak villain even with Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, I don't really hold that against Marvel, because they're doing something that's never been done before in terms of creating this movie universe. So they want it to be tonally the same. And if you want to play with their characters, you've got to exist in that. And that's like the comic books too. I mean, there are certain expectations that, with, they'll have some stuff that might tonally shift somewhere, but for the most part, they're all playing with the same characters with the same rules.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how Star Wars plays out as well. And all of this talk could be utter nonsense, by the way.
Sure.
I mean, there could be no truth to it.
I mean, I will admit to feeling a little bit of panic when the story first dropped. Like, oh, we had just had a conversation with our friend Mike the weekend before, and he was very doubtful that this film was going to be good at all. And then suddenly this rumor drops, and now I'm feeling like, oh gosh, is this not going to be any good?
Yeah.
And sure, some of this might just be PR spin and damage control from Disney's perspective with some of the new information that's come out. But as you said, these films do reshoots all the time. So
this is not unusual. And to be fair, that first trailer was pretty spectacularly received. I liked it a lot.
Yes.
So, we'll just have to wait and see. And
I don't think by any standard is going to be a bad film. But the question is, will it be the best film that we wanted to see?
Like I told you, Jared, when we were talking about this off air, have we just reached the point where now it's time to take a dump on Star Wars? Just like,
After one film.
you know what I mean? I mean, it happened with Marvel.
Yeah.
It happened with DC, but there's a sort of rightly deserved. But there always comes a time, and this, again, ties into popular culture and fandom, where at some point, people and groups will turn on things that are successful. Like they are waiting for the downfall of something, and they will act accordingly. I mean, you've got that with Avengers 2, which, Age of Ultron, like there was question, is this going to be it? And, people sort of dumped on it and maybe took it to task for issues that many other Marvel films had anyway, but yet they were fine to overlook those sort of things. But now it's time for Marvel to take their lumps.
Time for the big takedown.
Yep.
I think it's harder for people to understand that at this scale that these movies are produced at and released at and expected to perform at, there just isn't room for risks. And so if things look like they're the same as they were before, if things didn't turn out the way you would like them to because they didn't take a big enough risk, a chance, or do something unique and visionary, it's because it's a big business.
Yes.
So you're never going to get that. You just have to hope that what you're seeing on screen is at least enjoyable and worth your time.
Exactly. Perfect way to end the segment, Jared. Scope listeners, that was a fantastic Nerd Roundtable.
Eat a disc, jerk butt.
What?
Eat a disc, jerk butt.
Wow,
Jerk butt.
Jerk butt. Tell all your friends, tell your parents how great this was. Pass it on to them.
Yeah.
Jared and I will think about it. We'll be back right after this with Coming Soon.
We now return to the scope, just for the hell of it. Under the scope.
We are back after a quick break. It's Under the Scope, but more specifically, coming soon.
Side gun.
Again, Adam is out, so that means I take over the reins on all of the upcoming pop culture phenomenon you need to know of.
Get to life, losers.
Boy, he's really going to submarine my entire segment, isn't he?
No, just that line.
Music for June 17th, 2016, Jared. We've got a few discs coming out and also digital downloads. Bruce Hornsby and the Noisemakers, you were beside yourself that Bruce has gotten rid of the rain, and he's got a new band called the Noisemakers. They got an album called Rehab Reunion. DJ Shadow is back with The Mountains Will Fall. Got a new one from Mogwai. A new one from Neil Young. Radiohead's got a physical release of their album A Moon-Shaped Pool. Some weird music on that album.
Yeah. Well, that's Radiohead. What do you want?
We've got some new tracks from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jared. Their first single that they released wasn't half bad.
Yeah, I kind of liked it.
Anthony Kiedis in the hospital, but he's out, I think, now and back on track.
What was wrong with him?
I think flu-like symptoms, which is always creepy when they say that.
Yeah, right, because that's what we heard about Prince.
Yes,
and then...
But I think he's doing all right. And then we've got a new one by...
Prince is not doing all right, for the record.
Yes.
Not at all.
I think he's out of commission. Yeah. And we've got a new one by Swans called The Glowing Man.
God, it's been ages since I listened to them.
Oh, they're back.
Good to know.
Movies of this on the same day, June 17th. We've got a couple big knockers, Jared. We talked about this. It's
your favorite word. I like it.
Movie recently, Central Intelligence, starring
Big Johnson
and
Little Heart.
Dwayne
The Rock Johnson, or I think he's dropped The Rock now.
Yeah.
But Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart playing. Sometimes he's The Rock. Sometimes it pops up. But
okay.
I don't know if it's in this advertising. They play a sort of a odd couple. One guy's in the CIA, the other guy's a normal guy, and normal guy is getting pulled into the CIA shenanigans.
Who's the CIA guy?
The Rock.
It's not very subtle.
It is not
for a spy.
And in this one, The Rock, when he was younger in high school, he was a fat guy. And they play,
that's right.
And they play that up in the trailer, and maybe that's funny, maybe that's not. Depends.
It's funny in the trailer, but I don't know if you need to see the movie just because of that.
Fair enough. And we've also got Finding Dory, the sequel to Pixar's Finding Nemo. You know, if you listen to this show, that I'm looking forward to this film. Maybe I get Jared to the theater on this.
I might see it. I was pleasantly surprised with last year's Pixar entry over the summer. The what was that? Inside Out?
Inside Out.
Yep.
Touching
yeah.
and good.
Yeah.
A home video release for June 14th. We've got 10 Cloverfield Lane. Jared and I saw it. Liked it. A little weird from time to time, but worth of your time.
Recently hit with a Content ID copyright claim by Warner Brothers. Our review was. I don't know why. Probably because we used the poster.
We probably did.
Yeah.
We've We've got the little indie film Eddie the Eagle, based on the Great Britanese.
Brittany's, yeah, that's it. Sounds like a breed of dog.
Ski Jumper, starring Hugh Jackman. And we've got
The Brittany Spaniel.
We've got the sequel to
The Doberman Pinscher.
Something Has Fallen. London Has Fallen. What was the first one?
Olympus Has Fallen.
Olympus Has Fallen.
Which was codename for the White House.
There we go. Did we saw that in the theater, or was that the one we saw?
You and I saw White House Down.
Okay, could have been the same movie.
I saw Olympus Has Fallen with someone else.
Gotcha.
Neither were great.
Neither were great, and you reviewed them both. Video games for June 10th. We've got some DLC for the game Just Cause 3 called Land Mech Assault. I beat Just Cause, and it was fun.
What's the main tenet of a Just Cause series?
Essentially, you are a guy trying to liberate a bunch of islands from a dictator, and it sort of plays like...
It's a first-person shooter type game?
It is not first person. It's sort of like Grand Theft Auto meets... what else?
The Snorks.
Wow, digging deep. And then we've got a game called Sherlock Holmes, The Devil's Daughter. But that's not it, Jared. One last bit of business to take care of.
Hit it or miss it, hit of the week. Hit it or miss it, miss of the week. Look out!
That's you, Jared.
That's me.
I did last week. You do this week.
I have my pick, and I'm going to pick a hit.
This
is a home release hit. This was a movie that got a lot of positive praise when it came out earlier this year. I didn't get a chance to see it, but I kind of wanted to, and the title of the film is Hello, My Name is Doris.
Tell us about it.
This is a story of stars Sally Field and star of the hit TV series New Girl, Max Greenfield.
We like him.
I believe they get into a relationship, a bit of a
winter spring.
Winter spring. I don't know how you describe those, but older woman, younger man. And I hear it's very funny, very touching, and definitely worth your time. So I would like to check it out. I don't know when I will. I might wait till it's on cable, but if you are this type of person who likes to rent or buy digital home releases, Hello, My Name is Doris.
There we go.
Is for you.
Under the scope.
You said it, Jared.
I did.
You said a mouthful.
What did I say?
You said...
everything's gone. I don't remember a word of it.
Hey, we're coming to the end of the show.
Yeah.
So that means this order of business is all on your shoulders.
So we like to read your comments here if you have anything exciting and interesting to say. You can write in at comments@thescopeshow.com, or you can call our voicemail line. We'll play your message on the show if it's entertaining. 612-21-SCOPE. That is 612-217-2673. Use your mobile phone. Give us a call. You can also reach out to us. You can send hateful messages towards us on how we're destroying everything you love about your childhood. Do that through Facebook, Twitter,
it's all us,
and Tumblr. All those links are on our website at thescopeshow.com. If you'd like to watch what we do and the sort of shenanigans we get up to, you can check out the black curtains in my basement over on YouTube. YouTube.com/thescopeshow.
I'm showing them to you. I'm showing them
Nice.
to you right now.
Thank you, Vanna. If you'd like to support the show, like to see it continue running, you can become a Patreon patron over on patreon.com/thescopeshow.
A lot of Patreon.
A lot of Patreons. You can pledge as little as $1 an episode, set a monthly cap, or cancel anytime. Join our small but loyal group of patrons who support us on a regular basis. Or you can support us by shopping at Amazon. That's thescopeshow.com/Amazon. We have an Amazon affiliate link there. Just click on that link. Small portion of your sale goes right into our pockets after 60 days. So it's a bit of a slow return. But it gets there eventually.
It does.
And it helps pay for things like caramel popcorn for Shane and Adam to drop all over the floor.
I did not have any today, and I'm very disappointed.
Back to you, Shane.
Terrific job, Jared. Hopefully, our next set of shows, Adam will be back.
Maybe.
But if not, we'll do this again. Which is dead silence.
Sorry, it's hard to do.
So boring.
That's about right. So I don't know if we'll be back next week, but that's okay. For Jared, I am Shade. This is The Scope. And guess what, guys? Bye for now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves once again at the end. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. I know I have. Fear not, Scope faithful. The days shall pass as if they were but a moment. And Jared, Adam, and Shane will return with another thrilling episode. Until then, send your comments to comments@thescopeshow.com or leave a voicemail message by dialing
612-21-SCOPE. That's 612-217-2673.
Thanks for listening, faithful fans. This is Tony Partington saying sayonara. Tune in next time to another terrific edition of The Scope.